It's our Wonderful Wednesday special session. I have two great executive HR leaders on today, and I'm going to introduce them in just a moment. If you're just now signing in, go ahead and let us know where you're signing in from, what city and state, perhaps what country. If you're from another country, we'd love to see and hear from you. Also, let us know if you can see us and hear us okay. I'm going to be checking my screen just to make sure that I'm able to capture any chats that come in, because I do want to make sure we interact with you. I want to make sure that we're able to answer any questions that you have as we go throughout our discussion. So please go ahead and put those questions in, put your feedback in as we go along throughout today's discussion. So I've got two really great guests, two people I really think a lot of. First of all, you'll see right next to me on your screen, you see Felicia Miller. She is the Executive Vice President and Chief Talent Officer at Parkland Health System in Dallas, Texas. Welcome to the show, Felicia.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Felicia, sorry. And then also we have Mr. Omar Reid. He is Senior Vice President at HR at Harris Health System, located here in Houston, Texas. Welcome to the show, Omar.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Look forward to the dialogue and conversation today.
Same here. We have so many things to talk about, and I know that the hours is just gonna fly by. We've got already different folks coming in. Hi, Mateo. He's coming in from Brooklyn, New York. Oh, we have Takesha. She's coming in from here in Houston. Good to see you, Takesha. She used to actually work with us. Good to see you. She's at Houston Methodist. Okay, so to get right into this, I really kind of want to get into first talk about each of your organizations and the scope of your organizations, because even though we were together last month, a lot of the folks that are going to see this today may not have seen that episode. So I want them to get a little bit of a familiarization with the scope of the organizations that you lead. Let's start off with you, Omar.
So Harris Health System is the safety net health system for Harris County. We have right around 500 beds. We have a level 1 and a level 3 hospital. Ben Taub is our level 1 hospital. Lyndon Baines Johnson, or LBJ as we call it, is our level 3 hospital. We have right around 10,000 employees. And so we offer all services. We have ambulatory locations, and we serve those that are most in need. The underserved is our primary population, and we partner with Baylor and University of Texas. Those are two medical schools that we partner with, and certainly as the Senior Vice President of HR, I'm responsible for all HR functions across the organization. They all roll up and report to me. So Harris Health System, that's our story.
Yeah, so that's a large, very large system. And so even if someone's coming in, if you're outside of healthcare and you're watching this, we're going to be talking a lot of the HR issues. So a lot of this will still apply to you. But of course, if you're coming from a healthcare organization, this will be that much more appropriate for those of you who are watching. And let's talk about you for a moment, Felicia, your organization, the size and scope of Parkland and what you're working with.
Yes, Parkland Health and Hospital System is much like Omar's. It's the safety net hospital for Dallas County. We have over 700 beds in our facility. We are a level 1 trauma center, so we see all the trauma in the area. We have over 13,000 employees here. We have ambulatory surgical centers, outpatient clinics, community outpatient clinics, as well as some school-based health programs for youth. We are affiliated with the UT Southwestern Medical School, which is right across the street. That's our feeder school for physicians. And in our office, instead of human resources, we are entitled the Office of Talent Management. So sometimes people think it's just recruitment, but it's all of HR. It's service delivery, it's learning division, diversity, inclusion, and such. And I have about 120 FTEs in my department.
Awesome. Wow. So another very large organization, big scope. So I think that's going to be helpful for a lot of the folks who are watching. Maybe we can get some best practices from each of you on ways that we can help our organizations to run better and be able to help grow that talent base that we're all looking to do. And the big title of our discussion today is looking beyond competition to build collaboration. And so I want to applaud both of you for making yourselves available to collaborate.
Well, I'm excited to be here because Felicia and I collaborate all the time. We are partners in the space, and we are always sharing best practices and information. Some things she may call me and ask me for. Some things certainly I rely on her for. So it is all truly about collaboration, as you say, and not competition.
I love that. Yeah. Go ahead, Felicia.
Omar, that was perfect the way he described that, because when you can reach out to another fellow leader that is especially the same similarities in their programs as Omar and I do, it's very different when you reach out to a community-based hospital that perhaps has a lower caseload, not as complicated medical patients. It's a little different experience. So Omar and I do bounce things off of each other back and forth. We share information so that we both, can deliver on whatever is the challenge in front of us. So that is it. Collaboration is a fantastic thing when you build those relationships.
Absolutely. And we've got lots of additional folks who are coming in. The Schultz group, he says, hello, everyone, and then Ramon Horacio Galarza, hola a todos. So I'll say hola back to you.
Hola a todos. He's
A
saying
todos.
hello, everyone.
Okay, hola a todos. Thank you very much. See, that's one of the things we're going to talk about today is diversity, inclusion, and equity. Bringing in folks from all different cultures. I love this. So we're going to have a great discussion. What was one of the biggest things that you've learned this year in 2020 so far? Let's start off with you, Omar. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned this year?
I think certainly one of the biggest lessons that I've learned this year is adaptability and flexibility. So I think those two words go hand in hand. As we have gone through the pandemic, there have been a lot of things that we just had no idea were going to be obstacles or opportunities placed in front of us. And so we've had to, transition to a fully remote workforce for a lot of people that, used to show up every single day at the office. We had staff that were inside of the hospitals, and we had to figure out, how are we going to keep them safe? So, when PPE was running short at the beginning of the pandemic, how are we going to compensate people? We changed some of our pay practices to make sure that we were compensating people fairly who were on the front line. And so there's just so many things that took place this year that have really taught me adaptability and flexibility as an HR leader. We need to be able to be responsive to the needs of the organization. HR is, and I'll be totally transparent. When I got here, HR was a policy police. We implemented policies and we made sure that people followed the policy. And really, that's not a best practice in HR anymore. You've got to have policies to set guardrails in place, but you really got to understand the businesses that you're in, and make sure that you're able to partner with those that are out there providing the services. And so really trying to understand what those needs were from our organization as we move forward. I'll just give a quick story. Very early on in the pandemic, I got a call from our executive vice president of ambulatory services. And she said, hey, we're going to have a huge problem tomorrow because our Ask My Nurse line needs to be staffed up some more. And she says, I need you to be creative in the solution that you are giving me. And, right then that just forced me to think outside of the box about what her ask was and what we traditionally would have offered, and then what we actually were able to offer in that time when there was so much chaos early on in the pandemic. So adaptability and flexibility are probably two of the things that I would say I've learned most during 2020.
Oh, those are great lessons. How about you, Felicia?
As Omar said, flexibility was one. The other one was agility. Sometimes HR doesn't move. And I, like Omar, when I came, it was just stuck in the mud. Nothing happened very timely. We had over 69 days before we hired anybody, which you could be hired and fired a million times in 65 days. And so in our HR service delivery, we collaborated with a number of departments quite frequently, finance, payroll, legal, to deliver our HR services. We compensated differently also. We had diffs for staff that spent a lot of hours on the COVID units, because once they became experts in COVID, they were the teams that worked on those units. And so we tried to compensate them for the time away from their families and taking care of our patients. People in the offices went out to mobile testing sites. So people who used to do training went out in the community and helped the lines and traffic going through our mobile COVID test sites. We supported our staff with various type of monetary instruments, as well as providing them paid time off when their hours were reduced. So when we stopped doing surgeries to focus on COVID and other respiratory issues, some of those staff who could be redeployed on the COVID units did it. Some of them went to be screeners at the front doors, taking temperatures. And so we really tried hard to keep people employed. We didn't do any layoffs at all. We just moved people around, and people were very flexible. We used our certified nurse anesthetists to do respiratory therapy work, because they manage, airways.
Yeah.
And so they stayed employed because we weren't doing surgeries.
Right.
And so it was about flexibility for everybody, and agility, because, HR, as I said, was kind of slow to get out the blocks before, but we moved a lot and we did a lot of things. One of the things too, I thought was really, really wonderful to work on was our learning division for orientation. We made the classes smaller, they were socially distanced, they were spread out. And so our orientation went into several sessions per day times 2 to be able to get the same volume of people hired into the organization without missing a beat. So with that came, nursing and education and those other departments had to pick up their paces too to keep up, because we wanted to not lose ground in hiring.
Love it. We got some great feedback coming in from the comments here, and it looks like I just missed it. Where was that? Wesley had a point. Oh wow, I missed it. Yeah, Joe, if you could put it back in the comments on Zoom for me, I'll take a look at it again. But I liked his point. He was kind of piggybacking on something we had just talked about. But I want to just pick up really quickly. So some folks who aren't in healthcare, and maybe some that are, may not be aware of this. And I didn't understand this at the very beginning. But when COVID hit, when it started to hit, the numbers started going up. The surgery stopped. Felicia, can you explain the reason why that happens? Why is it that the regulatory authorities or who's behind it stopping? Because I want to make sure that it was explained to me, but I want to make sure you explain it to the audience so that they understand why that happens.
So primarily, we still did trauma cases and emergency surgeries, but the elective surgeries that could be put off were put off because all the resources were turned to the COVID patients, which this was a respiratory, a lung, a systems attacking people, and people who had issues with diabetes or obesity or other respiratory problems like asthma and things were really highly impacted. So they had other systems failures. So people were turned every which way to handle the impact or the impact or other symptoms that got worse with the COVID. And COVID was very infectious. So we figured out kind of a couple of months after that, we had to do more to change our PPE between patients instead of treating a number of patients in the same garb. That required assistance from other people helping those nurses to get on their equipment, which we call donning and doffing, taking off that PPE between patients, and even actually regulating their bodily functions, because you couldn't get out of this stuff just like walk down the hall, take a restroom break, go take a cigarette break or whatever, a soda break. That was not part of the gig. And so that's why we had people deployed to other areas besides elective surgeries.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then also some feedback I had gotten back from hospitals is that some of the regulatory authorities were concerned about even having enough PPE in general. And so they're like, hey, no more elective surgeries, because we want to make sure we save all that PPE for the COVID patients. Is that kind of also play into the decision as well?
Yes. Omar, how was it like that for you too?
Oh no, absolutely. I think we were having daily status checks to see where we were on PPE as an organization. And what happened was, because PPE started to the supply started to diminish, the price started to increase. So we were paying triple what we would normally pay for a N95 mask or other personal protective equipment, even if we could find it. I mean, there was a mad dash, a mad scramble, because there was not a centralized system. Everybody was reaching out to suppliers, and so it was really chaotic early on in the pandemic. And certainly here in Texas, the governor started sending out rules about what could be continued. And so a lot of elective surgeries got canceled here in Texas by executive order from the governor, just because they wanted to make sure that we had the capacity to take care of those COVID patients as they were coming into facilities. And, it was overwhelming the system. And so right now we're in a good place here in Texas, but a lot of the other parts of the country are surging right now. And so we feel their pain, and certainly our prayers go out to those other parts of the country because we know what it's like to be in the middle of a surge.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Here was that comment earlier from the show group, says that he or she thinks it's vital that leaders partner with HR in support of their staff. I don't know if either one of you wanted to comment on that.
Yeah, that's critical, because this was all about employee engagement, supporting employees, providing constant communication about where you were, as Omar said, on levels of PPE, who needed to shelter in and work from home, absolutely, who was a first responder that really needed to come to work. And one thing that I would change going forward is, we got into language that talked about essential and non-essential. Well, everybody was essential. If you could do some work from home, that was fine. We could have worked from home, but we did not. We came to work so that we could be agile. We could serve the other patient facing staff. And so it really was a situation where everybody was essential. And it's happening now, because our numbers of COVID are going up, and people are being infected by community contact. And so they can't work because they're out furloughed or they're out sick. So we are still having to cover various roles. Wow. And so I would just not call people non-essential. Everybody's essential in a pandemic to me.
Oh, yeah.
Rollins, I just want to chime in here too. One of the other creative things that we did here at Harris Health System and other health system across the Houston area was that we had to find boarding for our employees because they didn't want to go back home. And so we contracted with a local college who had vacant dorms, and we set up 30 rooms, 40 rooms for our employees to go there and stay so that they did not have to go home and potentially spread COVID back to their families. And so there were so many lessons learned. If you would have told me I'd have been, booking hotel rooms for employees because of a pandemic, or contracting with a local a local college to provide rooming for our employees. That's not something that's in my job description,
Right.
but it was certainly something that we had to do as an organization to make sure that as we supported our staff and protect our staff from the things that were going on in the community at that time. So a lot of disruption were taking place, and we were trying to deal with it as fast as we could as they were as it was coming at us.
Yes.
Yeah. Fortunately for us, we had hotel partners around our facility that offered deeply discounted rooms for our staff, you're right, that were afraid to go home. They gave free laundry for washing. We had a Tide truck out that did dry cleaning and laundry for us.
Oh, nice.
As well as, being able to accommodate people who did not want to possibly take COVID home to their families.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think this year is the year of where that little part on the job description says other duties as assigned has probably been heavily utilized, would you say?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we got some comments that came in here. Deanna Stinson-Reese, which, by the way, she is a minority career growth expert. She does quite a bit of public speaking on that. We had her on the show just this past week. It was wonderful having. So welcome, Deanna. Thanks for joining us. She said that she remembers that time period when they were postponing surgeries, and it was almost like a supply and demand issue, like what you mentioned with the PPE, with the prices going up. So she was talking about that. She says, I'm sorry if I missed this earlier, but how has the healthcare facilities been pushing for the mental support of their staff, especially the minority staff dealing with the effects of the pandemic and the social climate of the country? Ooh, that's a deep subject right there.
Yeah, there are a couple of ways we did this. In our benefits package, we have an employee assistance program that we alerted them we needed to have them on deck to provide either group sessions or individual sessions for caregivers directly dealing with COVID, whether they had a COVID positive family member or they were showing signs of fatigue as they were caring for patients on the COVID units. We have our chaplain group that's very active on the patient care floors. We have a group called Sparks. It's made up of caregivers and the chaplaincy, and they address, like critical deaths, hard patient outcomes, especially. We have Schwartz rounds also, where we have a particular topic and caregivers will talk about their experience, and then the audience get to relate some of their feelings around that. And in the midst of this, when George Floyd was killed, we also started a discussion about disparities and violence against Black individuals. And so we held 7 listening sessions of about 120 people total, from the top SVP Black leaders here all the way down to frontline staff.
Oh, wow.
And we asked them, what has their experience been at Parkland? And we had people with tenure from 2 weeks to 45 years. Mm-hmm. And they talked about the impact of violence being on Black individuals, as well as the climate at work. And what were some of the things we needed to change in our racial equity in our workforce, equity in outcomes, as well as in community interactions and minority businesses. So those two came together well. We're still having, we're at the end of our 21-day racial habit building program. We're having conversations, people are learning, and then the next step will be required education and reading for the rest of our house. So we've seen about 1,000 people get on these calls, and they really tell us they learn, because while Black history is American history, it's not what was taught in the schools.
Right.
So if your parents didn't provide you access, or you didn't find library books, or you really weren't interested, you have a different history that you learned than we do. And I'm sure Omar can relate to that. He even provided something for me to go look at in relationship to his family that was very touching. So we had a lot going on. We still have a lot going on.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So as you've seen this program start and continue. Have you seen some positive feedback on how it's helped people? Perhaps they learned something in the course that helped them to relate better at work. Have you any stories or experiences you want to share on that?
Sure. Yes. Some of our white employees have gotten on and they've learned the history, experimentation on Black female slaves to create the speculum, what Jim Crow law was all about. Redlining. We all have parts of the city that are quote unquote undesirable. They're either filled with Hispanic people or Black people. And those pieces of properties were redlined. So there was no investment in it. Schools were impoverished. And that's how you get your barrios and ghettos still today. And so they started to understand what systemic racism meant. It's not just about the Ku Klux Klan or, the Confederate flag. It's more deeply embedded in everything we do, our laws, how we live, how we access healthcare, how we get jobs if our name sounds too ethnic or Black, all those things. And they're learning. And some of them are like, I'm just appalled, I'm frustrated. And we're saying, take that frustration and turn it into continued curiosity to learn, and then advocacy for the underrepresented, because you do have something called white privilege.
Appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that. Omar, like you were about to say something.
I was just listening to her. I don't want to say anything.
Okay.
It was
All right.
it was great. Her comments were fantastic, and I do, however, want to add in about what we're doing here at Harris Health System. So shortly after the murder of Mr. Floyd, I like to say our CEO has a heart of gold and a steel of spine, because of the challenges that as I started to bring stuff to him, he was like, okay, what are we going to do about it? And so his desire to engage Harris Health System on a road of diversity and inclusion started in June. So with something that we called the talk. And so it was a panel discussion that was moderated by me. He participated in it. We had a couple other executives participated in it. But it started off with one of our African-American employees who's been here probably over 25 years. And he talked about being pulled over by the police one day on his way to work, and being made to lay on the ground and guns drawn on him, and just how that had traumatized him on his way to work, and how he wasn't able to, he never knew what he did. And in the end, he was the wrong person. They had pulled over the wrong person. Somebody had committed a crime.
Yeah.
It wasn't him, but just the feeling that he had, the story that he was able to share with our entire workforce was how we kicked off the talk. Then we really started, talking about some of the things Felicia was talking about: systemic racism, implicit bias, unconscious bias, those things that we know are prevalent in the workforce, but just are not talked about. And so it was also the sort of the kickoff of our diversity and inclusion program here at Harris Health System. And we really have 4 priorities for that diversity and inclusion program, which is psychological safety, cultural competency, religious literacy, and emotional intelligence. And so those are the things that we're trying to promulgate among our workforce here at Harris Health System. And so during October, which was Global Diversity Month, we had in a pastor from, a religious leader from Interfaith Ministries in here. And he spent the whole hour talking to us about the many different religions that exist across our city, and how those, and just to give us an awareness of some of those different religions that exist across the city as diverse as Houston. So we had a diversity scavenger hunt where you had to go out and ask questions to other people, find somebody who's different from you and ask them some questions. And that scavenger hunt resulted in a awarding of some points but also awarded in a personal lunch with our CEOs. Our CEO said, I want to be involved. How can I be involved? I'm going to offer a lunch with the winner of the diversity scavenger hunt, which we announced on last Friday. So there's a ton of things that have been kicked off, because not only were we dealing with the pandemic in 2020, we're dealing with social unrest like we haven't seen in this country. You know, if you think back, it seems like a long time ago, but the streets were full of people who had been, you know, energized to go out and protest around the death of Mr. Floyd. And you really saw people of all, you know, ages, ethnicities, genders out there. And so we didn't want to not be part of that. So Harris Health certainly, you know, was excited to be a part of that and continues to engage in that. And in the month of November, we kick off our Executive Advisory Council, and our employee resource groups will be shortly after that. So we never had that here, and I'm not sure if we didn't have the CEO that we have right now, we would have it. So I'm very fortunate to work with somebody, as I said, that has a heart of gold and a steel of fire.
Okay, well, you know what? We gotta give a little bit of a highlight to that. Let me do that real fast. There we go.
Wonderful.
That's for him. No, we appreciate that. And, you know, Deanna, she also piped back in, too. She said that in terms of the pushing back of surgeries, she says, I remember when elective surgeries were postponed because my daughter's surgery was postponed, and I'm still trying to get her in. So she was affected personally by that. And then she also said that that's awesome. I noticed a lot of companies I've consulted with have not been amplifying the importance of the EAPs. And I know, Felicia, you were talking about the EAPs earlier, or having a diverse network of suppliers. That's good to hear all the support being provided on the front line to the healthcare workers. Thank you. So she thanked you for that. So appreciate you. And then Johnny Lynch, CEO at Texas Healthcare Staffing. He's piping in today. He says, great job, Omar and Alicia. Keep fighting.
Right. Absolutely.
Appreciate that. Okay.
Thank you, Johnny.
There's a little bit of a lighter question here. What's your favorite sound in nature? And I want everybody in the comments to answer that too. What's your favorite sound in nature? So Omar, you want to give us that? What's your favorite?
I think a waterfall. That's you know, I love the sound of running water, rushing water. I find it very calming, and so it has something to do with water. So waterfalls, water washing up on the beach. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking about wishing I was at a beach at some point. But yes, I think that's going to be my favorite one. Something to do with water.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. How about you, Felicia?
Same here. I sleep very well and very deeply when it rains. I've been fortunate enough to be to stay on the beaches of Barbados, and you hear the water and the waves rushing up on the shore.
Love that.
Or just hearing, as you said, a waterfall and listening to it. It's just something that's very calming about it, and it really helps me sleep. When I traveled weekly with Tenet, one of my sounds to go to bed in with my earbuds was the shores of Thailand or the rain in Japan. It was always water sounds for me.
It is interesting how water is so calming, because one of the things I remember when I hear of nature sounds, or before I even thought of waterfalls, would be when my wife and I were at the beach in Jamaica and just kind of sitting back by the beach and just listening to that water, just the waves just come up and back and forth. It's just so calming, you know? Love it.
Absolutely.
Okay, I got one more for you. This is a would you rather question. Would you rather have a famous song written about you or a best-selling book written about you? Which one would you rather?
I'm going to go with the book.
Okay.
And not written about me, but I would like to write a book. And Rollins, you know, I've written a book, so
Exactly.
I'm a book nerd, and so I think the book is where I would go. I have little rhythm. My wife and my daughter tell me I have very little rhythm, and so a song is not going to help me at all. So
Okay.
I think the book is where I'd rather go.
Okay, yes, and I want to take a moment to talk about Mad Leadership. That was written by our author right here, Mr. Omar Reid. He is the author of that book. It's in my queue in Amazon. In fact, Joe, can you, if you don't mind, can you share a link to that book, Mad Leadership, written by Omar Reid? Okay, so Felicia, how about you? What would you pick?
Well, I had a friend that wrote a book and the character was based on me. So
Ah,
I think I've had that, a little bit of that experience. So I think I'd take the song, and it would
okay.
probably be really goofy and corny, but I think it'd probably be memorable.
Okay, sounds good. In the comments, okay, actually, we already have some comments. So Deanna says waterfall, so she agrees with you, Omar. Patty says, I like the sound of rain. And the show group says rainfall or waterfall. And Johnny Lynch says the waves of the ocean. So everybody, it's kind of a water theme today. Yeah, and Joe also put a copy. She put it says, yeah. I'm just clicking on it. Yep, she's got it. The link here. It's for your book, Mad Leadership. Make a difference. Show the people light, and they will find their way. Written earlier this year. If you don't mind, tell us, what was your inspiration for writing that book, Omar?
I've always been a leadership fanatic, and over the course of my career, I've been blessed to have great mentors and learn some phenomenal leadership lessons. And so I wanted to share those lessons with persons who are from frontline to C-suite executives on how they can make a difference in the lives of others. You know, I believe leadership is personal and not positional. And regardless of what your position is in the organization, you can lead. And, you know, I've just been blessed in my life. And so I wanted to share some of those lessons with others. The show the people the light and they will find the way is an African proverb. And so it just goes to, you know, if you show people light, they will find the way or follow the way. And so I don't want to go into my biblical explanation, but, you know, certainly light signifies life. And so I think that having people find the light and helping them find their way, all of us can make a difference regardless of who we are, regardless of the station that you have. And because I have been blessed so much in my life, I find myself trying to be a blessing to others and making a difference in their life. So really the inspiration behind the book, and certainly you can find a lot of leadership lessons inside of the book.
Love it. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yes, thank you. So I want to give away a copy of your book actually right now. So here's, folks, if you're watching, I want to give you an opportunity to win a free copy of the book. We're going to order it and send it to you directly. You just get it in a few days since it's available on Amazon. So here's what I'll do. I'll do a little trivia question for you. If you were here earlier at the very beginning, outside of our discussion, we talked about the size and scope of their organizations. So the first one to answer this correctly, what if you combine those two numbers, what would it be? And so you can give me a number, and the person who's closest to the actual number will win a free copy of Omar's book. Okay, let's go back into our discussion. We'll give them a moment to come up with an answer for us. Going back to our discussion, one of the other things I wanted to cover with you is what are some contingencies or preparations you have in place now for an extended amount of time of this pandemic? And first of all, before you even answer that, how long are you projecting that this scenario is going to even last? We're putting you in a tough spot, so we're not going to hold you to it. But just what are you thinking? What are you preparing for? And then what preparations are you making if it goes a little longer than what we think it's going to go?
So we don't have people planning to come back until at least January of 2021. But I'm thinking we're going to be pushing that date out further. In all reality, I think it's going to be sometime after the first quarter of 2021 before we actually are back in a, not what I call a normal place, but what I call the new normal place that we will be and we will land. I don't think we're going back to normalcy as we had it prior to the pandemic. anytime soon. I think even if a vaccine is developed and deployed, that we're going to still have people that are not going to take the vaccine because they're not going to believe it's safe.
Yeah.
And so I'll just tell you my own personal opinion. Until Dr. Fauci takes the vaccine, I'm not taking it. So once Fauci gets the shot, if they show me a picture of him getting the shot, then I'm all good to go. But until I see Fauci with it in his arm, I'm not taking it. So
I understand.
2 thumbs up, Omar. I've come too far. I've come too far. COVID free.
Yeah.
absolutely.
No, it makes sense. And I've heard similar things. I've asked others. I know another organization here in Houston. They're not planning on anything until March 2021. And I've also heard, to your point too, Omar, about the vaccine. I'm told that they're hoping for 70% effectiveness. So even if, let's say, half the country takes it, we got 320 million people. Let's say 170 million people take it. It's only going to be 70% as effective, and then the other 100 and something million who don't take it, it's going to be zero effective. So it's going to be a little while before we get through this.
Yeah, vaccines are a challenge. You know, we take flu vaccines, and I'm religious about taking mine because I've had the flu some years without the shot, and it was really tough on me. So I'm convinced that I need the shot. But so many people won't take even the flu shot. So, you know, I'm just wondering, and I'm going to sit and watch until Dr. Fauci takes it. I'm going to be sitting on the sidelines watching too. I'm well with the flu shot, but I don't know about this one.
Well, I'm hoping maybe something like the Spanish flu where it just disappears one day. Is that possible? I'm hoping for something like that.
If people wear a mask and keep their hands clean, but you know, we're getting fatigued, you know, and people are now we're starting to get together for the holidays, and you know, it's kind of like, well, I know so and so, and I just want to see them. Well, you don't know where so and so's been or who they've been with, and that's the challenge. And so, you know, I've spent time in my backyard, just like the cactus you see behind me. I've taken very good care of them because I've spent most of my time since March in my backyard in my free time, and you know, going to the 24-hour Walmart, you know, at 4 a.m. after they've cleaned everything and nobody's there. I have 2 bottles of hand sanitizer in my car. I probably have 5 masks sitting on my desk right now, all kinds of varieties. And I have signs on my door that say mask up, so I won't walk out into the hallway without my mask. So, you know, we've just got to be hyper vigilant because we just don't know enough about COVID to know how it's going to treat our bodies, whether we have underlying conditions or not. People are reacting in very mild ways where, you know, they have nothing but the sniffles, and others have their life, you know, have lost their lives or come to the brink of it. So it's, I don't think it's something to play with because we really don't have enough knowledge about the disease process, and nobody's guaranteed, you know, to make it back the same way as they were before they got it.
That, you know what, that is, I'm so glad and I'm happy that you mentioned that, because we track cases and we track deaths, but we don't track those who their life is changed forever after getting it. I've heard stories about that. So thank you.
A lot of disability cases after, and they're legit. People have neuropathy. They have a hard time walking, using their arms, hands, partial paralysis, issues with vision, taste and smell doesn't come back. And if that's part of your job, like you're working in the culinary business, you know, that didn't work too well.
Right. Exactly.
So it's something not to play with. I advise people, we are here at work and we take all the safety precautions. And many of the people that we're having to send home, you know, for incubation periods, they are putting themselves at risk outside during their personal lives. It's called community spread. And it's not here at work where we're really, really safe at work, where we have safe behaviors at work.
Yeah. And that's, we've even seen that in sports. Like they take all these precautions as a team, like NFL and NBA and that sort of thing. But like with the NFL, they're not really in a bubble. So if they end up going somewhere, going to some club or something like that, and spreading it, and then they bring it back to the place, it doesn't matter what protocols they took inside. If that person comes back inside, he can spread it to the whole team.
That's right.
But it sounds like you're talking about a particular player who might have visited a club in Atlanta during his off time when he was supposed to be going to a funeral. So sounds like a story I remember hearing sometime during the NBA season. That player should remain nameless, but if you want to Google it, you could probably figure out who he was.
There you go.
So we've got all kind of masks. This is my Johnny Wasp Couture mask.
Oh, I like that one.
And Johnny Wasp Couture, look it up. And then I have my other mask. This is my paper mask that I just use to run around the office. And then I have this black mask if I want to match, with anything I have on.
There you go.
That one, I sort of look like a cat burglar. But nonetheless, it's get your stuff and be prepared.
Yes. So now I want to ask you, before we finish up, I want to ask and get both of your take on this. As we are looking towards the next generation of leaders, there's some lessons that you've learned from this unexpected event that I'm sure has helped you as leaders. What are some things you would like to share with that next generation of leaders so that they'll be more prepared for the next time something like a COVID happens in the future?
Wow, that's a really good question, and I think I think one of the things that I am encouraged about the next generation of leaders. I have 2 leadership development programs inside of my department. One is called Leadership Now, and the other one is called Everyday Leaders. Leadership Now is for people who are already in leadership positions, and it's really those frontline leaders that I'm trying to help become what you say, that next generation of leaders. And Everyday Leaders is it's the frontline. It's anybody. You can be a part of that Everyday Leadership program. And we generally meet once a month, and we read articles or we talk about books. And I think one of the things that the next generation of leaders really need to understand is a word Felicia used, is leadership agility. So I think if you Google Korn Ferry, they have something, a model called leadership agility. And there are about 5 characteristics that they mention that agile leaders need to be successful. That's going to be self-reflection. It's going to be emotional intelligence. It's going to be communication skills. It's going to be, I can't remember the other 2, but if you Google the Korn Ferry model on leadership agility, and I sort of mentioned some of those things in MAD leadership, but I think that the next generation of leaders really need to be prepared for the velocity of change. Change is happening so fast. I'm amazed at how fast things change. Information is so prevalent. The amount of information that we are receiving right now on our smartphones. And so being prepared for that pace. I was talking to a leader today, and we're working way more hours now than we ever worked when we were going to work every single day. I'm checking my, email at 6 a.m. and 10:30 at nighttime. But the velocity of change is really something that the next generation of leaders need to be prepared for. And then just the imagination, and then the global competition. We're in a global, the world is flat. I think Thomas Friedman wrote a book, The World is Flat. And it used to be you compete against the people in your neighborhood or the people in your state. Now it's all over. The competition is all over. So how do you keep up and not become complacent? I'll close with this, or I'll say this. I told my team a couple weeks ago, I fear complacency more than I fear failure. So how do we not become complacent, and how do we make sure that as a organization we keep pushing the envelope and we don't start to rest on our laurels. So complacency, I always challenge the next generation of leaders, don't become complacent.
Okay.
Listen to podcasts, listen to TED Talks, do all those things you can.
I want you to tell me about that statement one more time. I like that. You fear what? Say it now.
I fear complacency more than I fear failure.
Oh, see, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
I appreciate that. No, that's if there's anything we want to get out, let's get that one out. Anything on you said a lot of things today, Omar, but I like that one.
Okay.
I
thank
fear
you.
complacency more than
I fear failure.
I feel
Absolutely.
failure. Yeah. Yeah. I
Well,
love
because
that.
if you're a leader, you're going to fail. There's going to be some failure because that means you're trying something maybe that has not been tried before. You're trying to do something different, so you're bound to run into failures. People who are complacent are bound to get run over.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is right. And like you said, to continue to be innovative means, be inclusive of people and ideas and not closed-minded, lean into the group versus sitting outside and with complacency, like you said, because, if you basically are inclusive, you're open-minded, you're a convener who brings people to the table, who can identify solutions or try something old and make it new again. That's the most amazing thing that new leaders can equip themselves with. And I like what Omar says.
I love that too. That's a great point.
Fear complacency.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got some good comments here from the audience here. Let's see. Deanna said she had to go, but she says she really appreciated both your insights. She enjoyed listening in today. She had to go catch a client call. Joe says, I'm with you, Mr. Reid. I don't want to be the guinea pig about the vaccine. And let's see. Brian says the musician Christopher Cross, the musician, lost use of his legs. He was highlighted on a CBS morning news story a few weeks ago. I did not know that. Wow.
Yes.
So see, that's not. So we wouldn't track him in the numbers as a death, but here his life has changed forever because of the COVID. Rune Moan, he says, I agree, John. It's going to take a long time before or if we get a vaccine. And Brian hashtagged your leadership agility. He liked that point. So very good. In fact, I remember from at the very outset, the three words I got from both of you were flexibility, adaptability, and agility. Those were excellent. And I applaud what both you have done for healthcare, and not just being in your own silo. You're collaborating with other leaders. You're collaborating with each other. And by us doing that, we can go beyond competition and build collaboration. So I appreciate that. I do have one more question for you. Would you rather question or a favorite question?
Felicia, I'll let you pick.
Favorite.
Okay. All right. What is your favorite refreshing drink? And in the comments, I want you to let us know too. What's your favorite refreshing drink?
I'm ready.
Go ahead. Go for it. What is it?
I love ice cold Topo Chico with a grapefruit twist over ice.
Oh, yes. My wife's favorite sparkling water is Topo Chico. We have literally two cases of it downstairs. So
Yep, and it's better in the glass than it is in the plastic if you can have it in the glass.
that's true. We get it in the glass bottles, and we put them in the refrigerator so they're nice and cold.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Omar?
Wow, I don't think I can keep up with that. I don't even know what that is. So I'm going to have to Google it to try to find out what it is. Since she's drinking it and you have a lot of it at your house.
Yes.
I'm going to Google it when we get off of here. I'm very basic. I mean, lemonade.
Hey, love some lemonade. I love some lemonade right there.
I
Yes.
love lemonade, and it's one of my favorite refreshing drinks. I'm a cyclist, and so as I cycle, if I can get a cool, refreshing lemonade after I've done 30, 40, 50 miles, then that's a treat for me. as I get off the bike and try to find something else to do to cool down.
That's great, Omar. And my dad used to make fresh squeezed lemonade, and he used to put just a hint of vanilla in it. You might try it. It's so good.
I will try it. I actually have a lemon tree in my backyard, so I might try that for sure.
Very nice.
So I was at a friend of mine's house, and I think his mom was from El Salvador. I think his dad's from Mexico, but his name is Jonathan. He works with us. And one time, he took the Topo Chico and he put the lime in it, and then he put some cayenne pepper in it.
Mm.
It was really good. I was surprised. So I don't know, have you tried that before, Felicia?
No, but that's a good metabolism booster, because lemon juice is great, lime juice is great, and a little bit of pepper boosts your metabolism just a little bit.
Oh, nice.
So, I might try that.
So Joe says, I love Topo Chico too, with some salt and lime juice in it. And Patty says, my favorite drink is actually just plain water. Well, good for you, Patty.
Not cheaper, Patty. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
That's true. Well, listen, you guys have been awesome today. This has been a great session. What's the best way for anyone to interact with you? Is it best for them to follow you on LinkedIn? If they wanted to have more questions, should they tag you in this discussion? What's a good way to contact you?
LinkedIn, or I can type in my email address. That's a good, easy way.
Wow, we feel special.
So I'd recommend that they follow me on Instagram, Mad Leadership.
Okay.
Or also on Facebook, Mad Leadership. You can find me on Facebook.
Okay.
Or you can hit me on LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn is just my name, but I think if you follow me on Facebook or Instagram at Mad Leadership, then I think that those are probably the best ways to follow me and enhance your leadership skills. We have something called Transformational Tuesday.
Oh, nice.
Where we put out a message every single Tuesday about leadership to try to help people continue to be better leaders. So as you have your wonderful Wednesdays, I have a Transformational Tuesday message that goes out every week.
Love it.
That's
Okay.
a great idea, Omar. So I put my work address or LinkedIn into the chat zone, so you can follow me that way. But I'm gonna check in on Transformational Tuesday.
All right. Look and see what we put up there yesterday.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna check it out. So Joe, can you put Felicia's email there in the chat here, and then also let's put the Instagram and Facebook for Omar. We already have you tagged in this post for your LinkedIn. So if you're looking for his LinkedIn, it is up there at the top. You can follow him there. Really appreciate both of you being on today. It was a wonderful session, and I really want to have you guys back. I want to make it a third.
I want to thank you for what you do, Rollins. You are a blessing to the HR community, and the fact that you keep inviting us back is certainly you honor us by inviting us back. And so I'm very appreciative for having the opportunity to be a part of this conversation today.
I appreciate it. It helps me in my craft, because as I work with hospitals and helping them to fix the staffing issues related to nurses, whenever I'm able to talk with them and bring some of the information I get from these interviews, it's incredibly helpful to them. And so it also gives me an opportunity to kind of give back to the space that I'm in, right? So I love learning from just very bright professionals and leaders like you and Felicia. So thank you for sharing your time with me and me learning, and then also for our audience. I know our audience thanks you as well. In fact, our audience, put in the comments what resonated the most with you from what you heard today, and let us know if you're going to apply any of the things that you learned today. I'm going to apply a lot of stuff. My list is long, but my main things are flexibility, adaptability, and agility.
All right.
Thank you. Well, let's say bye to everyone. So bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us today.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, now before you leave, let's do a couple of quick little poses for our video editors when they edit these things. So if we can do like a happy pose. And then if you want to do like a, I don't know, pointing pose or crazy pose.
Nah, I think I already stick with this.
Okay. You guys are awesome. Keep up the great work. Thanks for all you're doing for healthcare. Thank you for your systems because you're providing that safety net to keep our communities healthy. So thank you for what you're doing here in Houston as well as Dallas. Appreciate both of you.
All right. Have a good one.
Have a
You
great
too.
one, guys.
Good to see
All right.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good seeing you too.
Well, folks, thank you very much for joining us today. Hope to see you tomorrow. I think we have a show tomorrow, right, Joe? I think we have a show tomorrow. 2 o'clock?
No, we do not.
We do not have a show tomorrow. Okay,
Yeah.
we don't have a show tomorrow. Do we have a show Friday?
No.
We don't have a show Friday either.
Today is our last show of the week.
We'll see you next week, guys. Thanks for watching.